say silence has weight. On that morning at Fort Redstone Ridge, it weighed more than the frost in the air, more than the M4s slung across 147 soldiers' chests, more than the fury in Captain Reed Slater's voice when he snapped, "You, Whitlow, take that uniform off." The words cut through the cold harder than the wind. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Soldiers frozen mid-stretch, stopwatch ticking unheard. The fog of breath from the morning PT hung in the air like suspended judgment. May Whitlow didn't flinch. Slater's boots crunched across the parade ground as he closed the distance. His hand shot forward, ripped her name tape from her chest. Whitlow, tearing loose with a scream of Velcro that echoed off the hills. "You don't belong here," he spat. "Women like you disgrace this uniform. Take it off. Now!" Gasps, then silence again. But Whitlow didn't speak. She didn't plead. She simply nodded once. And then, methodically, deliberately, she began to unbutton her jacket, one by one in front of the entire formation. No drama, no defiance. Just the hands of someone who had done this thousands of times before. She folded the top neatly, like a soldier still in regulation. Underneath, her tank top clung to her frame, plain and regulation gray. But it was her back that stopped the world. The tattoo spanned from shoulder to hip, not decorative, not flashy, a memorial etched in ink and silence. 31 names, coordinates, dates. At the center, one name, Caleb Graves, KIA, Nallur Ridge, 2011, and beneath it, in unmistakable lettering, "Tell her she's the bravest I ever saw." High above in the command tower, General Noah Graves stood holding a tin mug of black coffee. It slipped from his fingers. The clang rang out as clearly as a gunshot. A ripple passed through the ranks. Some soldiers stiffened, others turned pale. The name was no mystery. Caleb Graves, son of the general. A story whispered from unit to unit, always ending the same. Only one soldier had brought his body home, and no one ever knew who, until now. And May Whitlow, she just stood there, silent, tattooed, unmoving. The frost steamed off her skin like mist rising from a battlefield that never truly ended. This wasn't in any manual, but every soul standing there understood something had just changed. Not about protocol, not about chain of command, about who gets to wear the uniform and what it really costs. 2 months earlier, no one at Fort Redstone Ridge gave a second glance to May Whitlow. She blended in like old concrete, quiet, neutral, nondescript. A civilian contractor assigned to administrative support for the training command. Her office sat in a corner of Building 5A, nestled between supply and personnel. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Files passed through her hands like leaves in wind. She typed quickly, efficiently, brought coffee without being asked, wore her ID clipped to regulation khakis, hair tied tight, posture perfect. To most, she was just another name on the daily roll. To Captain Slater, she was an easy target. He eyed her with the same contempt he reserved for female staffers and junior instructors. Never mind her clearance level, never mind her prior assignments were marked archived. Slater didn't like things he couldn't control. "Civilian or not," he muttered one morning during roll call, "you show up on my field, you play by my rules." He assigned her to clean latrines, usually left for low-ranking privates. When she didn't complain, he added gear inventory. When she stayed late to finish reports, he cut her internet access. When she passed PT observations, he questioned her form and made her repeat. But Whitlow never reacted. No eye roll, no sigh. Just a silent nod and a task completed with military precision. Master Sergeant Micah Chen started noticing. He'd been around long enough to spot the difference between quiet and calculated. The way she tracked movement peripherally. The way her fingers tapped a coded rhythm when she thought no one was watching. The way she disappeared for lunch, but always returned with mud on her boots and knuckles freshly bandaged. One afternoon, Chen leaned into her doorway. "Contractor, huh?" he asked. She looked up, expression unreadable. "Yes, Sergeant. You weren't always behind a desk." She didn't answer, just blinked once, then returned to typing. That night, while Slater berated 2 female trainees for whining about blisters, Whitlow sat alone in the server room. The light from the monitor flickered against her face. She plugged in a small drive, Nothing that looked unusual. Just another backup, maybe. But if anyone had followed the signal trail, they would have seen it ping off a secure node in Helena, Montana, then vanish. Her personnel file was an elegant work of misdirection, service history, civilian analyst, short-term contracts, medical records, training injuries, clerical duties. Clearance, level 3, expired. But tucked behind the last page, hidden in a metadata tag, was a single line: Spectre Division, deactivated, ID S-3-91-WH, and no one, not Slater, not HR, not the command office, had ever seen it. Yet, because some ghosts don't haunt, they watch. And May Whitlow had been watching for a very long time. The changes were subtle at first. May Whitlow's name began appearing on duty rosters in impossible combinations. Graveyard shifts stacked beneath 500-hour PT sessions. Equipment audits scheduled across buildings at opposite ends of base. 3 hours of rest, no gaps, no margin. Captain Slater called it character building. Everyone else knew what it was: exhaustion by design. Still, May complied. No arguments, no visible resistance. But Master Sergeant Chen saw the bruises that didn't match her tasks. Fingernail scrapes across the shoulder blade. Deep red welts around her wrists, hidden beneath long sleeves but visible when she reached too far across a desk. He pulled her aside once. "You don't have to take this." She met his eyes just for a second. "I've taken worse," then turned and walked back into the filing room. Late one night, in her tiny off-base apartment, May dialed a number from memory. The line crackled. She spoke softly, deliberately. "No, I'm still good, just need a little more time." A pause. "Yes, I know what I said, but this isn't just about me anymore." Another silence. 5 lives already fractured, 1 nearly lost. That's enough." She hung up, eyes closed, then pulled out a folder from under the floorboard. Inside, photographs of injuries, printed screenshots of deleted rosters, statements written in her hand, dates, names, times. At the very bottom, a letter, folded, smudged, its envelope torn but preserved, addressed in trembling handwriting, "To anyone who will listen." It had come months ago, from a mother in northern Iowa. Her daughter, Private Elise Hallen, had gone through selection at Redstone Ridge. She didn't make it, not because she lacked strength, but because someone in command broke her piece by piece, and no one intervened. She had left behind this letter, and a line May had never forgotten. "He told me I wasn't built for war, but I was never at war with the enemy. I was at war with him." The mother had tried every channel: IG, ombudsman, chain of command. Doors kept closing, records vanished. In a last act of desperation, someone whispered a name: "Find Whitlow. If anyone still watches, it's her." That was the call May answered, not for glory, not for vengeance, but because someone trusted her with their last truth. The next day, while Slater barked at candidates on the range, May stood by the back fence of the obstacle course, watching, silent. Behind her sunglasses, her eyes tracked not just movement, but intent. She wasn't gathering evidence anymore. She was preparing to make it undeniable. Slater had started a game of attrition, but he didn't realize something. May Whitlow had once survived a battlefield with no name. This was just paperwork. The sky over Fort Redstone Ridge was still pink when the announcement crackled over the loudspeakers. Formation moved to Parade Ground Alpha, full turnout, inspection by base command. It was unusual. General Graves rarely visited selection formations, but his presence sent a jolt through the chain of command. Uniforms were checked twice, flags raised an inch higher, and Captain Slater, for the first time in weeks, looked nervous. He had reason to be. May Whitlow had been quiet, too quiet, and his instincts, those shallow, self-preserving reflexes, told him something was shifting, so he struck first. As the 147th candidates stood at attention, boots in perfect rows, Slater stepped forward. "Before we begin," he called, loud and confident, "I must address a breach of integrity in our support staff." Heads turned. May stood 3 rows back, hands folded behind her back, still in her contractor uniform, unassuming, unarmed. "This woman," Slater barked, pointing, "has falsified records, compromised candidate confidentiality, and acted in direct violation of base ethics protocols." Murmurs rippled. "Effective immediately," he continued. "She is to surrender her uniform as evidence, in front of this formation. Now." Silence. General Graves hadn't arrived yet, and Slater was counting on that. May looked straight ahead. No blink, no protest. "Sir," she said evenly, "regulation requires written orders. A female officer present, chain of custody forms, witnesses." Slater's face flushed crimson. "I gave you an order, Whitlow. Take it off, or be removed by force." Something shifted in the air. A few soldiers exchanged glances. Master Sergeant Chen clenched his jaw. Private Shay Carter balled her fists so tight her knuckles whitened. But no one moved. May turned slowly to face them, her voice low but steady. "If this is to be the moment, I ask only that you all remember it." She unzipped the jacket, folded it neatly, placed it on the concrete with reverence. When she turned, the first reaction was confusion, then realization, then silence so deep it drowned breath. The tattoo across her back wasn't art, it was scripture. 31 names, each inked with date and coordinate. Each line a farewell no ceremony had honored. But at the center, framed by shoulder blades carved by time, was one name: Caleb Graves, Nallur Ridge, KIA, 2011. And beneath it, in soft script, "Tell her she's the bravest I ever saw." The crowd stilled. Then a pair of boots moved through the formation, slow but purposeful. General Noah Graves stepped forward, eyes locked on the name. His voice, when it came, was quieter than expected, but harder than steel. "Colonel Whitlow." May turned, saluted, bare shoulders still. "Retired, sir. Contractor now." Graves didn't return the salute. He stepped one pace closer, his voice barely above breath. "You carried my son home when everyone else gave up." May said nothing, but her stillness said everything. Behind them, Slater stammered, "There's no record of any of this." Graves turned to face him. "Exactly." The silence after General Graves' words was heavier than any order ever shouted. Captain Slater tried to speak again, but nothing coherent came out. His carefully cultivated mask, the posture, the voice, the rank had cracked. "This isn't possible," he whispered. She's just admin." Graves didn't raise his voice. "She's the reason your training grounds still exist. While you were polishing metals you didn't earn, she was pulling soldiers out of places you don't even have clearance to pronounce." He turned to May. "You brought Caleb home. When they told me it couldn't be done." May said only one thing. "He asked me to." Graves nodded. A sharp breath. A blink too long. Then he looked at the MPs standing nearby. "Captain Reed Slater," he said evenly, "you're hereby relieved of duty. Charges to follow: abuse of authority, falsifying records, dereliction of command, and conduct unbecoming an officer." As they stepped forward, Slater's last weapon, entitlement, bared its teeth. "My father's a general. He'll bury this." Graves didn't flinch. "Your father is already under investigation. That rot stops here." May didn't watch Slater being led away. Instead, she walked quietly toward the line of female soldiers he had humiliated. Private Hallen stood there, eyes wide, shoulders trembling. May didn't lecture, didn't console. She simply said, "You're still standing. That's what matters." Hallen blinked back tears. "Ma'am, Colonel, I almost quit. He made me feel like nothing." May leaned in, voice low. "That's because he saw what you were, and it terrified him." She looked around, speaking just loud enough for the others to hear. "The system failed you, but you didn't fail. Your strength, quiet, bruised, steady, is what this uniform is supposed to mean." The investigation widened. MPs uncovered shredded complaints, manipulated records, a silent network of officers moving abusers like chess pieces across commands. May's documentation, Names, dates, evidence became the blueprint. 3 officers were charged. 1 quietly resigned before the news broke. Reforms followed, slowly but permanently. And when the dust settled, the Army offered May something she hadn't expected: a full reinstatement, promotion, a public commendation. She declined. "I've served my wars," she said softly. "It's time the next generation leads, with better tools than I had." Instead, she founded the Graves-Hallen Foundation, named for the son she brought home and the daughter she couldn't save in time. A bridge between what was lost and what could still be protected. It offered legal advocacy, off-chain reporting, psychological care. But more than that, it made sure no one whispered alone into silence again. Months passed. At a new cycle of selections, a group of candidates ran the Ridge course. A few struggled. One female recruit faltered at the third wall. From a distance, in the shadow of an old watchtower, a woman in flannel watched quietly. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The recruit tried again. Climbed, fell, climbed again. Made it. At the end of the day, May returned to her truck. Before she stepped in, she reached beneath her collar and pulled at the edge of the tattoo stretching across her shoulder blade. 31 names, then 32. The newest one wasn't a fallen soldier. It was Private Elise Hallen, not because she had died, but because she had survived. And May was done counting the lost. Now she counted the ones who made it back. Later that month, at a quiet grave in Snowbridge Cemetery, General Graves met her beside a headstone etched simply, Caleb Graves, 1987 to 2011. She placed a new challenge coin beside it, this one marked with the emblem of the foundation. "His words pulled me back," she said, "when I wanted to disappear for good." Graves looked at her, the weight of old war and new peace behind his eyes. He always believed service meant protecting those who couldn't fight for themselves. "I see now. He learned that from you." May nodded but said nothing. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought in war zones. Sometimes they're fought in offices, on parade grounds, in silence. And sometimes, the ghosts who walk among us don't haunt, they guard.